Hey everyone, my name's Nekrotikk and this is Loki, and there's fresh catnip on that blanket. But this video is actually going to be a review of Svengali, so maybe Loki will go catnip hyper and I will talk about a film. Or Loki will wander off. Okay, so Svengali. It shows up on horror lists, and I guess it's kind of horror. It's not like horror in the sense of being actually scary to watch. In fact, it's quite boring to watch. But if you think about it, it is really scary because I'm not sure if... No, this is probably not a spoiler because it will probably say this on every description of the film. But basically, the main character, Svengali, hypnotizes and kidnaps somebody. Loki, you want to come back on camera? Well, I'm just going to keep talking and he'll probably come back. So yeah, the main character, Svengali, hypnotizes and kidnaps someone, and that is obviously a terrifying thing to have happen to you. You know, if you imagine that actually happening to you. But the way that it's filmed, not particularly scary and kind of boring, like I said. So I don't know how I would recommend this or what rating I would give it, because I find the idea terrifying. You know, if you've been kidnapped and you're being held against your will, that is obviously terrifying. That's horror. If that happens to you, you know, it's gonna be a horrifying experience. But in the sense of watching a film, there has to be more than what's actually going on in Svengali for it to be scary. Yay, there we go. Loki's back. Yeah, so I know Svengali is based on a book, and the book I believe is called Trilby. I can't remember who wrote it, and I actually haven't read it, so I can't say whether it's scarier to read the book. Maybe I should actually get the book and read it. Maybe that will be my next thing. That catnip good then, Loki? That's some good catnip. Is it on your tail? That looks like the catnip might be on your tail. Yeah. Okay. And again, I assume he will probably come back. Yeah, so maybe my next thing is I will get the book and I'll read the book and see if that's actually scarier. I don't know if it would be, but you know, that should probably be my next thing. So yeah, I think, like I've said, the idea and the subject matter that the film goes into is scary in itself, but the film isn't filmed in such a way that the film is scary. It's actually filmed in such a way that by the end of it, you know, like when you watch Dracula and you're like, well, why on earth would anybody want one of the other guys when they could have Dracula? Because like Bela Lugosi is just so charismatic, or Christopher Lee is so charismatic. They're basically my two Draculas that I like, Bela Lugosi and Christopher Lee. Like, in Nosferatu, you understood why maybe they wouldn't go for Nosferatu. Maybe. But Bela Lugosi and Christopher Lee, you don't understand why the women don't all want them. Because they are the handsome, charismatic guy in the films, you know? And I wouldn't say that, it's John Barrymore who plays Svengali. I wouldn't say that in the Svengali makeup he's particularly handsome, but he's definitely more charismatic than any of the other guys there. So like if you wanted to pick the guy that was, because this was filmed back when people seemed to marry more for like status or anything than actually love, you would probably pick the slightly more successful. Well, okay, Svengali's not successful in the start of the film, but you can see that he has the potential to be more successful than the other guys. So, you know, logically, the charismatic one that's more likely to be successful, you'd think would be the one that she'd go for anyway, so he wouldn't have to hypnotize and kidnap her, because he's, by the way society worked back then, he's probably the one she would have picked, if that makes sense. Or he just kind of looks a bit like a goth, and this is me thinking the goth guy should get the girl, because that's kind of how I think that films should work when it's films like that. Again, very much like Dracula. Why aren't they just automatically picking Dracula? Why does Dracula have to hypnotize them? I don't know, that's just me probably being a bit weird about it. But yeah, Svengali, not the most interesting film to watch. Kind of horrifying concept when you think about what's actually going on, but kind of boring to watch. So I guess I'd give it like a 3 out of 5, because it's okay. It's bordering on good. Definitely the theme of kidnapping is definitely horrifying. It's just somehow, I don't get how it can have such a horrifying theme but still be quite boring to watch. But yeah, so if you like kind of slow, boring films that have an interesting idea in them, then yep, it's good. And if you just like old films in general, then I would say it's really good. Like, if you are into old black and white sort of early talkies, this is like 1931, so it's still quite an early talkie film. You know, only just out of the silent era. So if you like that, is definitely one of the better ones to watch. Early films, obviously, there was a lot of quite bad films made as well as the good ones. And they're actually, certainly in the 30s and kind of moving into the 40s, there aren't that many strictly horror films. Like, I'm going to go back to Dracula again and say Dracula is classed as a horror film, but I wouldn't say that that's actually scary to watch either. It's scarier than Svengali. But yeah, if you're into horror films and if you're into old cinema, then yeah, give it a watch. But just be warned, it's kind of slow and boring. Even for like an old 30s film, it's kind of slow and boring. And now I'm just kind of rambling and repeating myself. So yeah, to sum up, scary idea, scary concept, bit boring to watch. And Loki's not coming back, so I'm going to end this one here. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and see you again next time.